Hello everyone, this is Mr. Mo. Welcome to the second episode of my brand new channel, Mr.MoFranchise. In episode 1, I went over the reasons for beginning this channel and what my vision is for a more rewarding franchise experience. In this episode, I'm going to go over how to set up the franchise, the difficulty I will be playing on, the team that I will be playing with, the general manager that I will be working with, and the roster restructuring that took place. As you will see, I will be using dice rolling throughout this franchise. It may seem odd to need dice to play a video game. However, I use the dice to roll outcomes for events that will be occurring during the franchise. Since I cannot go into the code of the Madden game itself, as I am not a programmer, the dice are used to add randomness to events. I believe this randomness adds a layer of uncertainty which makes Madden more enjoyable, less stale, and less predictable. If you want to replicate my franchise experience and you do not own polyhedral dice, you could always download a free dice rolling app on your smartphone. Step 1 for the franchise is franchise type, general manager mode. I'm going to make this a GM mode franchise. The downside to a GM franchise mode is that you do not get the scenario engine found when you are a coach in franchise. I do believe that in Madden 20, the scenario engine was a great first step for Madden. I hope that they continue to develop that concept instead of taking it out like so many other features they have taken out in the past. However, in my franchise experience, I add random events each week which I believe replace the scenario engine. Furthermore, by being in GM mode, it adds the ability to improve your stadium, relocate your team, and adds additional financial challenges that coach mode does not. Step 2 for setting up your franchise is the difficulty. For this, I roll what I call a 10-sided die, or a D10, to determine difficulty. On a roll of 1 to 8, I play on All Pro. On a roll of 9 to 10, I play on All Madden. So breaking that down, you have an 80% chance of playing on All Pro and a 20% chance of playing on All Madden. Right from the start, you can see that dice rolling affects my franchise experience. Many people might believe that playing on All Pro is too easy, and if you take a normal team, that could be the case rather quickly. However, as you will see, I will be tearing much of the team down before I begin the franchise. However, if you are skeptical about playing on All Pro, you could either adjust the ratio or just not roll for difficulty and play on All Madden. Or another suggestion could be that, if you do play on All Pro, bump the difficulty to All Madden after winning 2 Super Bowls in a row. For my roll, I rolled a 6. I will be playing on All Pro. Step number 3 is team selection. Once again, you will be rolling a D10 for this. Notice, if you roll a 1 or a 2, you can select your team. Perhaps it is your favorite team. For me, that would be the Steelers. Or maybe it is a team you have never been before but would like to try. Next, if you roll a 3 through 5, the team that you receive is random with 1 veto. I put the 1 veto in the game in case you either roll for a team and it is one that you have already played on, or if you roll a team that you do not care for. As a Steelers fan, I would prefer not to play as the Ravens, even though they are very talented. However, you must take the second roll regardless, thus only 1 veto. Finally, if you roll a 6 through 10, so there's a 50% chance this will happen, you must select a team that Madden has ranked in the bottom 5. I used the rankings from the franchise that I downloaded called TPGR Real 2020. I like the rosters from that franchise guy, so based on his roster, Washington, Miami, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, and Carolina are the 5 bottom teams. For my roll, I rolled an 8. Thus, I had to pick a team from the bottom 5. I took a look at the 5 teams, and after careful reflection, I decided to go with Jacksonville. Thus, for my first franchise on this channel, I will be assuming the head coaching duties of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Step 4 is general manager selection. In my case, I'm running the Jaguars. For this step, a D4 or a 4-sided die is rolled. Notice that each GM has characteristics that can define your experience with the team. While the former player favors the draft and youth, the financial mogul is more likely to spend money on your staff and free agents. The former player is tight with the money, but will give you the most flexibility in the draft, while the financial mogul is short on patience if you cannot produce wins quickly in the series. The lifelong fan usually takes the more moderate approach on the characteristics. For my roll, I rolled a 2. Therefore, I will be working with a GM who is a lifelong fan of the Jaguars. Step 5 is the General Manager Roster Restructure Plan. On this 5th step, you are determining the roster restructuring plan that the GM has. Older Madden franchise series in the past allowed you to select a cupcake squad, which gave you players that were less talented and thus your team's overall rating was lower to begin with. Since the current Madden franchise took that option out, a surprise to few Madden fans, I take a different approach. I roll a 10-sided die to determine the plan. Notice on a 1, you don't have to release any players. However, on a 2 or 3, I would roll for each player's release. On an even result, I would get to keep the player. On an odd result, I would release the player. On average, this means, of course, I would cut approximately half of the roster. On a 4, 5, 6, or 7, I would release all players who have 2 or more years of NFL experience. Thus, this would be a young team of inexperienced players who are either rookies or on their first year. On an 8, 9, or 10, I would release all of the players. For my roll, I rolled a 4. Thus, for the Jaguars, I will be releasing all the players with 2+ years of experience. Now, I've already gone ahead and done that, and later on you'll see the roster, and it's pretty ugly, but that's the fun of the rebuild. Step 6 is General Manager Roster Draft Capital. This 6th step is to determine what draft capital you receive in compensation for removing the players from the previous step when you let players go. Now notice on this, if you rolled a 1, in the previous step, you get to keep all your players, then you skip this step. There's no reason to do this step if you got to keep all of your players. However, 90% of the time, you're going to need this step. So, you're going to roll a 10-sided die, and on a 1 or 2, you are allowed to trade from the people that you cut in the previous selection. You're allowed to trade your top 14 players that you will be releasing for 14 separate draft picks. You are awarded a 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, and 7th round pick for the upcoming draft, and the same 7 selections, or picks, for the draft that happens after that one. So 14 picks coming to you over the next 2 years in the NFL draft. On a 3 or 4, you are allowed to trade your top 7 players that you will be releasing for 7 separate draft picks, and once again you'll be getting the 1st through 7th round picks for the upcoming draft, but nothing after that draft. On a 5 through 8, you get to select your top 3 players for picks, 1st round, 2nd round, and 3rd round of the upcoming draft. On a 9 or 10, you do not get any compensation for the players that you are getting rid of. For my roll, I rolled a 4. Thus, I will be allowed to trade my top 7 players for 7 picks in the upcoming draft. I will receive, once again, a 1st round, 2nd round, all the way through 7th round pick for that draft. These picks will certainly help in the rebuilding process. I have already done that, and I will show you at the end of this video what I was able to get in return. Step 7 is the General Manager Roster Replacement Age. This 7th step is to determine the age of the players that you will be allowed to select for your free agent replacement players. Once again, if you are able to keep all of your players from step 5, you can skip this step since you kept all your players. However, once again, 90% of the time, you will need this stage. On a 1, there is no age restriction. You can pick any free agent no matter what their age. On a 2 through 4, your free agent selections must be under the age of 30. On a 5 through 7, the free agents must be under the age of 25, and on an 8 through 10, they must be under the age of 23. For my roll, I rolled a 6. Thus, all of my free agent replacement players that I select will need to be at the age of 24 or younger. Step 8 is the General Manager Roster Replacement Quality. This step is used to determine the quality of the players that you're allowed to select for your free agent replacement players. If you were able to keep all your players, you can skip this step. However, if you released any players, you will need to roll the 10-sided die to see the restriction. On a 1, you get to pick any free agent that is available that you feel is best for your team. Once again, if you have an age restriction, making sure that applies. On a 2, the free agent replacements are randomly selected for their position. On a 3 through 6, the free agents must be ranked in the bottom 10 of their position. So you'd rank them, you'd go to the bottom 10, and you can easily sort that in Madden, and you would have to pick from the bottom 10 players. And on a 7, 8, 9, or 10, the free agents must be the worst ranked player at their position. For my roll, I rolled a 3. Thus, all of my free agents that I select will need to be in the bottom 10 of their position and under the age of 25 due to the previous step. At this time, we're going to take a look at the revamped Jacksonville Jaguar lineup after all the roster changes that have occurred. Here we see me selecting the Jacksonville Jaguars, our selection for our general manager, the lifelong fan, naming myself, Mr. Mo, and then going to the roster. At quarterback, Gardner Minshew II, a 65 overall. He'll be our quarterback to start with. At halfback, we're going to be starting a 66 in Armstead, 22-year-old there. Something to build off of, maybe a little bit. At fullback, we'll have Rodgers, although Flowers will compete for that job in preseason. Here's a bright spot for us, our receiving core. Chark with that 95 speed, a 76 overall rating. That is going to look really nice. So definitely our wide receiving core is one of our stronger suits as far as where we're going to be getting some excitement for this team. At tight end, we've got a couple of 65s that are going to be starting for us. That's going to be a little rough. Not as rough as our line, though. Starting a 64 at left tackle. At left guard, we're going to have a 55 in McDermott, although House will be competing for that job as well. At center, we're going to have Martin at a 54. At right guard, another 54. Yeah, our line's a little ragged here. And then Taylor at a 69 at right tackle. Our ends look better at 76, Allen, and 72. So we've got a 76 and a 72, two young players at end that are going to look good there. At defensive tackle, we've got a 77 and a 71, so a little strong there. We get a little weak at linebacker, 69, 69, and 63. So we're definitely weak at our linebacking core. At the corners, we look good at the first one there. C.J. Henderson, our first-round draft pick, at a 74. However, Scott at a 66 is a little ugly. At free safety, we've got a 64 in Reed. And at strong safety, we have Harrison at a 70, a young player to build around there as well. Our kicking crew, we have McCrane at a 66 and Cook at a 69. Taking a look at our draft picks, remember I was able to trade for 7 picks for the upcoming draft. So we're going to have 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s, 3 5s due to other picks that the Jaguars had made prior to this, and 3 6s and 2 7s. So we're going to have a lot of draft picks to go with at the upcoming draft. This year is probably going to be a little ugly, but we'll have a lot of draft capital to build upon for the team after this year. Well, there's a look at the roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's an exciting time to be a Jaguars fan. And that's a look at your Jaguars team. If you like what you see here, please do me a big favor, subscribe to my channel and click that like button. Also, feel free to spread the word to other franchise fans who are looking to make their Madden experience unique and more enjoyable than what Madden currently offers. Thank you and have a great day.